What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Gran Turismo 7 Racing Modified. Now, today we're going to put to the test if you can actually make an EV fun in this game. So, we have our 2019 Porsche Taycan Turbo S. I'm not an EV guy. It's really well known. People who know me personally know I do not like EVs. I find them soulless and just with no heart to drive. Me and my friends talked about this on a podcast we're doing. It's called the Auto Discuss Podcast. You can find it on the Ignite Media YouTube channel, or if you could just go on SoundCloud and look up the Auto Discuss Podcast, it'll come up. We did a whole video, the last video we did, I think I mentioned EVs a slight bit, but we're going to be doing some more episodes very soon of that. So if you guys want to hear more of me talk about cars in general, not just in a video game setting, go do that. But this car is completely unmodified. We're on sports hard tires to start with. We're going to see if we can make the Taycan a track car. We're really putting the idea of this series to test here. I've got my Thrustmaster T300 RS ready to go. We're going to jump on over to Dragon Trail Gardens and see what this thing can do on this track. So, as you guys saw in our last episode of the Audi TT 3.2, did a 2-minute and 3-second lap around this track. Racing Modified did a 1:37, so nearly 30-second increase. We did an episode, obviously, with the GTR in its stock form, and did a 1:48, and in its modified form, a 1:28, a 20-second increase between the two cars. So, let's see how a bone stock Porsche Taycan does out here. So, I don't like EVs, as a lot of you guys know. These are not my cars of choice for anything. Wow, the understeer is atrocious. See how she does in a straight. You can definitely tell it's an EV. The gearing runs out very quick. You can feel the weight. It's honestly a very heavy car. Now, this being the Turbo S variant, I think this does have the factory PCCBs. Man, yeah, this thing is really difficult to drive, but I also think that's partially related to the sport hards on this car. I'm sure with some good tires, those racing softs, this thing will be fine. Now, I have a friend that also does the podcast with me, and my other friend, Kaysen, who you guys have seen on here before. He's driven a Taycan Turbo S, as he's actually a coach at Porsche Center, at the Porsche Center in Atlanta, where I live. So, ooh, kick the tail out, okay. So this is actually the most I've driven this car in this game. I've owned this car in the game for a while, and I just don't drive it because like I said, EVs aren't my thing. I literally have it for the sole purpose of the fact that I am a Porsche fan, and I want to have all the cars in the game of my favorite brands. So Porsche, Volkswagen, things like that. Maybe one day we'll do an episode of Racing Modified with a GTI, since I own a GTI in real life, and they have the Mark 7 in the game. The weight is definitely this car's biggest enemy. You can hear it. It's just screaming these tires. It's not a bad car. I think if I had to pick an EV, it'd be this one, obviously, in-game and in real life. I've said before how much I don't like them. And I think, well, actually, it didn't make the second take of the Update 1.41 video that we did, me and Kaysen did, where we talked about the Tesla they added in the game. I don't like Tesla specifically. I love Porsche, and I will support them even if they're making the entire lineup electric, but, you know, EVs just really are my thing. I really don't like Tesla. But yeah, a 1:47.8 for our unmodified lap. That is faster than the TT, at least. I think it's in a similar ballpark. It beat the GTR. It beat the GTR by a full second. So that's pretty impressive, actually. Didn't think I'd ever see the day that would happen. You know, an EV beating a GTR around the same track. With me driving both cars. Now, obviously, you see this thing weighs 5,000 pounds. So our biggest change we're going to have to do here is to just lose weight. So I'm going to start off with doing just the weight reduction stuff. I mean, obviously, our performance options are limited. This car is not going to make any more power than it already is. Except for apparently adding a fully customizable ECU. I guess that just changes their battery levels. I really don't know. So let's see what we've got over here. We can add in, obviously, our weight reduction. We're going to go ahead and toss the tires on to ensure that that just gets done. as well as our coilovers. We're going to upgrade our brake pads. We're going to just get slotted rotors instead of the carbon ceramics to save some cash. We're going to increase our rigidity as well. You can see our options are very limited for this car. We've got, obviously, the State 5 weight reduction, which will get us another good 400 pounds, but as you can see, I don't have 300,000 credits to drop. So I am actually going to go ahead and upgrade to the carbon ceramics, just because the car came with them. So yeah, let's see. Well, if we can afford to do the wide body, which doesn't even have an option. So now let's just go and see if we can add some aero to the car and see what we can do. So we're going to add this little front lip here. We're going to, looks like we do have a wing option. I think oh, and a swan neck. I'm a big swan neck guy. That actually looks pretty good, honestly. I like the swan neck. Put some hood pins on it. We'll put a tow hook on the front. No roll cage options, unfortunately. We're gonna give it yellow headlights. We'll get rid of. We'll do the Euro plate, but we'll delete the front one. And obviously, this car has carbon ceramics again, so I'll put yellow calipers on it. I did not mean to talk to you. Sorry, Clayton. Let's see. Now, I honestly love center lock wheels a lot on Porsches, especially. So I'm thinking we'll go with these. Where's the BBS ones at? I prefer the BBS ones. There we go. Okay, everything looks fine. I'm gonna toss these on the car. Usually I would go create a livery for these cars. What I'm gonna do is, or download a livery for these cars, but I'm actually gonna make one. All right, so all done with that. That was quick and easy. You guys saw a time lapse that. I'm a big IMSA guy now. I went to the Petit Le Mans back in October, and I fell in love with IMSA. I've always loved the WEC, but I was like, oh man, IMSA is just as fun. So the livery is kind of just quick something. I really love black and yellow. They're two of my favorite colors. So I was very quick to do that. Blue's obviously my favorite color, but yeah, this car looks great. You're probably wondering why I chose 94 as the number. So in a past life, by that I mean almost 10 years ago now, I played football, and football 94 was my football number. So I have a very big attachment to that number, even though 43 is my preferred number, not only for Ken Block, that was my dad's football number and my brother's football number before he switched to 79. So 94 is my preferred number for things. But all in all, I think this came out really good. The car looks fantastic. So I'm really excited to see what our changes did on track. Now, obviously, we didn't gain any horsepower. So straight line speed should be about the same, if not slightly worse, with the extra drag of the aero. But the less weight should make this car a lot more responsive in corners. And that's what I'm curious to see, is how well this car will drive. So let's go ahead and apply the livery and head to the track. Drag and trail. So our time to beat is a 147.8. The all-time record is a 128. 128.016. That was our best ever time we've ever run around this track in this series. I don't think this car is going to beat that. So we're probably going to get close, though. So we're on Racing Softs. We got the full customizable now. We have the fully customizable aero. And I'm probably good. Let's see what happens if I max it. Usually some cars will gain performance points. Some don't. This car is one that gains. Now, obviously, this will lower our top speed, but for these high-speed corners where aero will actually make a difference, this should help a lot. So let's hit the track. All right, let's see what this Taycan can do. Right away, I'm noting, holy wow, it's a game changer in the weight side. This car feels a lot better already. with the slicks and everything. Obviously, the last time we drove this car, it weighed 5,000 pounds, and now it weighs 3,800, so almost a ton in difference. Literally a ton of weight and weight loss here. Still makes only 750 horsepower. Wow, I am flat out. Oh, a little bit of understeer. Not really understeer. I guess that was more just I braked too late. Pop the curb a little bit. It's fine. Okay, we're roaring to almost. I mean, we're at 160. I'm so used to having gears to shift though, so that throws me off so hard driving an EV. But this car just doesn't feel like it wants to understeer a lot. The weight doesn't have such a play anymore on this car. It drives fantastic. I'm genuinely impressed, honestly. Like, most of the cars we've built in this stuff, I've loved. This one, honestly, is probably the biggest surprise so far. The TT was kind of like what I expected. The GTR was quick. There was a little bit of a surprise. This is just shocking. And it's so fast. I mean, it's a Porsche. Why wouldn't it be fast? Oh, back end kicked out on me again. I think with some sharpening on the laps, this could be really close to the top time. Now, obviously, this is still going to be second place. A 133.2 in the Taycan, and that was with some errors. If I didn't make so many blunders, this car probably would have just demolished, you know, into the 120s with these. Probably still would not have beaten the GTR, but would have at least been comparable. I mean, it is comparable, but let's take a look at the replay from the exterior view and see how that looked. So the car just looks good. I love how this livery turned out, and it took me 10 minutes to make. Like, the Cadillac livery, Cadillac style livery on my Audi R18 took me hours to do, and I used someone else's as the base. Like, I, you know, was the one who converted it to different colors and stuff like that, and converted it from WEC to IMSA. This was like 10 minutes, and it already looks really good. But you can see the car just feels great in corners, which is something I didn't expect for a Taycan. I fully expected this car to be just still kind of bloated, still really hard to drive. You can see just like there's some little things. The tires are still fighting for grip, and while it doesn't weigh as much as it did, it's lost almost a ton. I mean, it's still got some weight to it. 3,800 pounds is still kind of heavy for a car, but of course, a lot of cars these days weigh around that. I mean, you got the RS6 Avant weighs about that. It's still lighter, at least than a Charger, but I was genuinely impressed with it. That brake glow is something else. That was kind of cool looking. I can't even get the R18 to brake glow, so it looks really good though. That car just genuinely, I think out of all of the cars we've built in this series thus far, that one has been the biggest shocker to me. Obviously, it didn't beat the GTR. I didn't expect it to. I expected it to be ahead of the TT at least. But considering the TT's power levels, I mean, I expected this to trounce it. I mean, this track does have some longer straights that would play in the favor of some higher horsepower cars like the Taycan and the GTR. I think the biggest surprise was beating the GTR stock for stock. I expected this car to lose to the GTR, considering the weight. But you can see the car is definitely not perfect, but it's generally a shocker. So, yeah. The Taycan did really good. So obviously it finished in second place on our board. So I'm genuinely impressed with it. It beat my GTI VGT around here, which I drove that over a year ago out here. But obviously it's just a tiny bit short of the R35. But I mean, it genuinely was quick. I think honestly that extra weight stage, the extra weight reduction stage would probably be the key to getting this into the 120s. And obviously fixing up some driver mistakes that I made during that lap. You guys saw the TT, I gave it 2 laps, but that was because I ran off and hit the wall. Those were just small driver errors that definitely would have made a slower lap, but weren't really warranting another lap attempt. But it is currently the fastest EV I've ever ran on this track, mainly because I don't drive EVs. So, yeah, hope you all enjoyed this episode of Racing Modified, and I will see you guys next time. Have a great day, guys.